Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Today, guys, the much-awaited review of the Incubus, If Not Now, When album that came out a couple of weeks ago now. We're a little bit behind.
We are.
Moving, change of scenery behind us. We're grabbing my a wall at my parents' house. So we're going to set up a new studio soon. If you guys want to give us some input on the colors behind us that you think would look cool or you'd like to see, or from the Red episodes in the past, from the last year and a half you've seen Red, where we could go in the future, we'd love to hear your suggestions. Now, as far as If Not Now, When goes, Tom, why don't you give everybody some background? I know we reviewed Make Yourself a couple hundred episodes ago with your brother, and where we've come from then.
Well, Incubus, they've been around for a long time. You probably already know the story of them, but, mid-90s had some kind of rap, rock, funk, metal kind of stuff. I don't know how else to describe it. Albums like Science, Fungus,
amalgamation of many styles.
Yeah, they started to shift towards the more mainstream rock sound, but actually I gotta give them some credit because they were really one of the bands that in the late 90s, early 2000s defined that mainstream rock sound. It's not like they were really selling out at all. It's kind of like they made a change, and honestly a lot of other bands adapted to the change that they made. Right. So in a way they were the trendsetters, right. I would say.
They're a major player in that scene. And
definitely.
And they have been for a long time. It's just the last, since Light Grenades came out in, 2006, 7?
Six actually, yeah.
Yeah,
six, you're right.
Here we've had, 4 or 5 years of just nothing from the band, went on a hiatus, and now they're back, and a radical change in sound.
Yes. Very much more adult. They're not rocking out as much.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd even call this, obviously it's not indie, it's Incubus, but, you wouldn't call this rock. You really wouldn't call it soft rock, but it does have harkens back. It's almost kind of like what Radiohead did within Rainbows, where they make a much more minimal approach to their song. They strip out a lot of, Incubus is known for just slamming you with a bunch of guitars and a bunch of different sounds.
And lots of effects on the guitars, phasers, flangers, all sorts of stuff.
Yep, and now you're not seeing that as much. You're seeing much more concise, very specific parts, minimal, simplistic, and Mike Einziger, the guitarist, and he was the main creative force behind this album, and from what I've seen, and I feel like if you were to look at this, from that perspective, you're going to see that his role, if he's being the lead guitarist, his role in this album is not nearly as big as you think it would be, because I don't hear a lot of guitar in this.
Yeah.
And he was actually quoted as saying, it's definitely not a hard rock record. I think we're asking a lot of our fans. We're asking them to listen for things that they normally wouldn't listen for. Well, yeah, because you've kind of trained your fans, a good portion of your fans, and if you're an Incubus fan, tell me if you agree with this statement or not, but it's been my observation that most Incubus fans expect that hard rock, high-intensity style of music, and that's something that Incubus has always given. So yeah, I expect fans of Incubus to not like this album. I really do. And a lot, this is getting very, very mixed reviews out there. If you look on Metacritic, I think it was sitting at a 50, maybe 49 by now. The score just continues to drop a little by little as time goes on. And hopefully, we can provide some good insight to that, because I think that there's a couple different ways of looking at this. Personally, I don't think that when a band makes a change, I don't think fans should jump ship. I understand that some fans will, and that's okay, but if you're a true, avid fan of music in general, you're going to appreciate when an artist tries to expand what their abilities are and do a change. Radiohead has done that, my favorite band, several times, and reinvented themselves, even if their music, even if they're taking from styles that were cool at the time, they most recently on the King of Limbs definitely are doing that. It's still, they're embracing it, and they go for it, and they do such a good effort. And I think that where a lot of people are not liking this album, or even loving this album just because it's different, I feel like that's the complete wrong approach to it,
But at the same time, and I've done a lot of research in this, looking at what Incubus fans are saying about this, and you've got the Incubus fans, like you're saying, that hate it because it's not their old rock and stuff, and you've got ones that love it because it's Incubus and because they'll stick with them no matter what change they make.
Right.
And to be completely blunt and maybe a little harsh, both of those trains of thought are equally stupid for completely different reasons, because it ignores the point. It's focusing way too much on their older material, because you should not love a band no matter what they do, just based on their old work, but you shouldn't hate them just because they changed from their old work, which is exactly why at Velocities in Music we focus on the album with disregarding as much context of the discography as we can, because it's all about the album we're reviewing.
Or even the band politics or the history or the music scene right now. We don't care about any of that because it comes down to what is the music on the album. What is it? And here what you have is, yes, okay, here you have Incubus has made a change. So did they do that change well? Did they execute? How is the music on this album? How does it stack up in comparison to all the other music that's going on right now? And just overall quality levels. And if you look at it, I think we can point out a few things here that, yes, while we may not give, I know Tom and I are not we're not in love with this thing. I don't hate it as much as a lot of people out there do. But I think that I can still point out some things musically that they're doing that just aren't right. Which, first of all, I'm gonna nail two things right off the bat, which I think Brandon Boyd's vocals here. He's actually, his lyrics, I know I harped in the Make Yourself review, I complained and made some jokes about Brandon Boyd's lyrics about pee, and you know, he's not the best lyricist in the world, never has been. He actually has made some good improvements here, so thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that. Now, as far as his vocal performance, I feel like all these songs, Einziger wrote all these songs or composed all these songs, and I know Boyd and the other guys were part of the process, and they, you know, all these songs have now come together, and while more simplistic and more minimal, I feel like Brandon Boyd just came in and just started singing on top of it, and he just overdid it, like way overkill on most of his vocal parts, and it just doesn't fit at all with the music, I'd say 90% of the time. And it just makes these tracks sound awkward as hell, and it's really distracting and bothersome. And there's some moments here where, and like in track 1, I actually like Brandon Boyd's vocals there a lot, and so it's very hit or miss. And overall, I think that's one thing I really didn't like. And to couple that, the production is just this pop production that I just can't get over how loud the vocals are and how quiet all the instrumentals are. It makes you just have to dig and dig and dig to get to the better parts, because there are some subtle atmospherics going on here. Mike Eisinger's guitar parts that are present are still of high quality, but they're so quiet, and you have to listen through Brandon Boyd's crappy vocal presentation here, which some of you may like, but I just felt like it got really cheesy at times. I don't know what you thought, actually.
Yeah. Honestly, I pretty much agreed with most everything you said.
Well, that's my main thing. I found it so distracting from this album, and that just the fact that some of these tracks I just go, really, really, guys. And I just felt that displacement and that couple, just across the board, there were just a lot of problems here that kept me from really liking this thing.
And that's the thing that really bothered me about it, is that there were actually parts that I liked, but rarely, actually, I think never, is there an entire song on this album that I like. There's a chorus here and a verse here that I think are really good, and then when it goes into the next section, ruins it for me. For example, Switchblade, good energy, you know, really rockin' song. I love the chorus. The chorus is catchy, gets stuck in my head. I hate the verse. Can't stand it. I think it's stupid. Right. And there's a lot of spots on this album like that. And so, and even within one section of a song, maybe I'll like the guitar or the piano or the drums and hate Brandon Boyd's vocals. Maybe the complete inverse of that. Right. But rarely do I find a harmony within one section of a song or one song itself as a whole that I like everything about it, and that's really bothering to me.
And the other aspect of it is that just the sound itself is very unoriginal. It's not something, this isn't new, cutting-edge stuff. This is Incubus wanting to simplify, but they're playing it very safe, so safe that it hinders the music from its own creativity, and that's something that I don't like. I've always appreciated Incubus for their ability to go out there and really, you know, punch out something that might be too ambitious, but here I feel like, yes, it's ambitious in the fact that they're changing their sound, but they're playing it safe in doing that. I would have liked to have seen them embrace it and really made a quality record from start to finish, and I just don't feel like this is it. So, you know, style change aside, good. I'm actually applaud the band for trying to do something. It's just I don't think they pulled it off. You really, if you're going to do a style change like this, bands need to really embrace it and go above and beyond to make sure it is the absolute best it can possibly be. And it's just not here. I mean, they could have done so much more with this and built upon it, even made it more conceptual, more ways for the listener to relate to what they're doing and have a purpose behind the change too, other than just their band's on hiatus, they needed to change. I'm feeling a 60 on this one.
I'm going 54.
What did you guys think? Leave us a comment at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Facebook, Twitter, do it, because that's where we talk about all this stuff. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
Even I can't recall